I'm really delighted that I've been invited to come and speak on interviewing with confidence. And some of you may be wondering, why would PMI put this talk on? What's it got to do with project management? It's got a lot to do with project management. Your career is a project. So I'm really delighted to be sharing a couple of tools with you this evening to help you really show up with any interviews with confidence. Before I go into my tools, I want to just bring to your awareness that how many of you have gone through a layoff, downsizing, a merger, an acquisition? Put your hands up, show me. Right, pretty much everyone, right? Were you ready for that? Yes or no? Were you ready? No, most of us are not ready, right? So you really need to be interview ready all the time, okay? I was not ready. I've been through a number of instances in my 25-year career that I was not ready. When I wasn't ready, for example, when I was working in a call center and I was one of the managers that had to lay off 200 agents. That was not a good time for me. I was not ready when they said to me, Carmen, the team you're in is now going to be, we went from a global centralized team to a decentralized team. And my job was on the line, basically. And my options were, and this was in early 2000, my options were to either move to Brussels, I was living in the UK at the time, or I had an offer in Dubai to go move to Dubai. And I also had an offer to move to the US. Well, clearly I chose to come to the US. I've always wanted to live in the US ever since I was a little girl, and somehow the universe presented that opportunity to me once we were acquired by another company. And so that's how I ended up here. And I must admit, when the news first hit me that my job was no longer going to be available to me, how do you think I felt? Scared, right? Scared, a little apprehensive. What's in my future? Right? I don't want you to have that experience. I want you to be ready for whatever comes your way this year so that you're not feeling that fear, that you're really ready to go. And so I just wanted to share this slide with you. There were over 15,000 mergers and acquisitions in 2018. That's a lot, right? So we never know what's around the corner in terms of our own career. So if you're prepared, you're not going to feel as much fear, right? So I want to ask you, who's driving your career bus? Are you driving the bus, or is somebody else driving it for you? Is this you? Are you a passenger? Or are you the driver? Because if you're not the driver, you should be. Okay. Does everybody have a worksheet in front of them? Yes. All right, excellent. Just want to make sure. All right. So I want to share this quote by Naomi Kayeti, and I was listening to a Business Radio X Phoenix podcast on their project management hour. If you haven't heard of Business Radio X, I would highly recommend it. And they have a project management hour. And on that particular project management hour, Naomi was speaking, and she said this statement, and I couldn't put it better myself. It says, your career is an investment, and you need to treat it that way. Right? And then she came up with these 3 actions, and I 100% agree with what she's saying, and this is what I say to my clients, right? This is the perfect time of year, right? We've just turned into 2019, to start planning what your career looks like for the next 12 months, right? So you want to reflect on last year and ask yourself, what were my accomplishments and what were some of my failures, or some of the things I would have done differently next time? And what I would also encourage you to ask yourself is, what do I choose to experience more of this year in terms of my career, and what do I choose to experience less of in my career? Right? You get to choose. You are in control. And then the second step she suggested, and again I agree with this 100%, is plan slow to move fast, right? So you want to be able to take some time out of your hectic schedules and just maybe spend a Saturday planning out what your career is going to look like in 2019. Right? Just plan slow to move fast, because once you have that plan, then you can act upon it, right? You can determine, what certifications do I need to get? What experience do I want to go out and get? Maybe you do that through volunteering. I don't know, right? Maybe this PMI's got plenty of opportunities for that. So just think about those 3 things. You want to reflect on the last 12 months, plan, and then act upon that plan. And so just to bring to your awareness again, if you're thinking of moving industries or changing jobs, these are the 5 growing industries in Arizona. So we've got advanced manufacturing, aerospace and defense, business and professional services, emerging technologies, healthcare and biomedical. These are all growing industries in the state of Arizona. So when you're doing your career search or thinking about where you want to end up, these are the growing industries that are really quite stable right now. I just wanted to share that all with you so that you had that awareness. All right, so this is what I'm here for, right? To help you answer give you some tools to help you answer those tricky interview questions that will come up for us during the time of an interview. So what are some of the common tricky interview questions that you might get asked? Anybody want to shout them out? Yes.
Why do you want to work here?
Why do you want to work here? Excellent. Any others?
Tell us about yourself.
Tell us about yourself. Their favorite. Yes.
Tell us about a time your project didn't work out.
Right. Perfect. Any others?
What's your biggest weakness?
What's your biggest weakness? Right. That's one of the ones that come up. That's one of the top 10 questions that gets asked in an interview. Yes.
Have you ever had a conflict that you had to resolve?
Exactly, right? These are all the kinds of interview questions that if we're not prepared, we can really get tripped up, right? We can get tripped up in how we respond to those questions and how our body language looks, right? So I'll just talk you through some tools. So you came up with a lot of them already. So these are the common questions that when you're in an interview, you really want to have in your back pocket. Lots of things prepared, right? So what is your greatest strength or weakness? So when you're answering that question, you can answer it saying your weaknesses first and then ending on your strengths. Why am I suggesting that you answer it that way?
You want them to remember the last thing you said.
Say that again, Ron.
You want them to remember the last thing you said.
Did everyone hear that? You want them to remember the last thing you said. What did you say? Yeah? All right, excellent. Describe a time when, give or share an example when. These are all behavioral type questions, right? So what is an interview? Essentially, what is it in its essence? It's a conversation, a discussion, right, between you and an interviewer, usually, or maybe one or more interviewers, right? It's usually you and maybe possibly 2 or 3 people interviewing you in some cases, okay? And it's full of questions, right? So what's one of the first things that happens in an interview? You introduce yourself, thank you, right? You introduce yourself. So this is going to be key for you. So how you introduce yourself, how you show up in your body is going to be really key, right? You want to show up with confidence, but not the cocky kind of confidence. You want to show up with inner confidence, right? So do you want to just stand up for me?
Sure, let's do it.
I'm just going to pick on Nelson here, right?
All right, here I am.
So you're all going to get to do this exercise. So I want you to pick a partner, and I really encourage you to pick someone you don't know, that you haven't spoken to yet this evening. And I want you to breathe. Pick who goes first, who's the interviewer and who's the interviewee. The interviewer goes first and introduces themselves. You, as the interviewee, are going to relax, roll your shoulders back, breathe. If you don't take anything else away from this evening, just breathe, okay? Greet them. So what you say is, good evening, Nelson. Sorry, Nelson. Good evening,
right.
Nelson. My name's Carmen Payne. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Right, and then when you shake their hand, a tip that I got from a body language expert is you meet the pressure of the person who's shaking shaking your hand, right? So always meet their pressure, all right? All right, everybody get up and introduce yourself to somebody new. Good job, Nelson. Thank you.
Welcome. That's right.
Everybody sit down. If you can hear me, clap. All right. All right, so everybody sit down. Wasn't that fun? So did you all meet somebody new?
Yes.
Excellent, good job everybody. Thank you for playing. All right, so the next interview question that we struggle with, as this gentleman in the front here said, was the question when they ask you, what is your greatest strength and weakness, right? And you have to be prepared to answer this question. Why am I saying that? It's going to, yeah, right? Do not say, I don't have any weaknesses. Do not say that. It's BS, right? If you have done some introspection and identified what your weaknesses are, or what I like to call opportunities for improvement or areas for growth, right? Then that shows me as the interviewer, what about you?
You're prepared.
Ron, you got to stop answering these questions, man.
It shows your courage.
It shows your courage, right? It's like basic thank you. I'm just kidding, Ron. I love you. You know, he knows I love him. Yeah, right? Sorry?
You're honest.
You're honest, right? Now, don't go in there and cite all the weaknesses that are the key things that they're looking for in the job interview. Trust me, I've seen it done. I've interviewed enough people to have that experience, right? So you want to pick a weakness that they don't care about. It's your strategy, right? You need to go in there with a strategy. So you want to pick a weakness that they don't care about. And you want to say, what are you doing to improve it? Right? So don't just list a bunch of weaknesses off or areas of improvement, right? And then not demonstrate to me as your interviewer the steps you're taking to improve those areas, right? And it could be just reading a book, watching a bunch of YouTube videos, right? Taking an online class. It doesn't have to be anything grand, right? So one of the tools that I encourage people to use, who's ever used a SWOT analysis? Come on, everybody should have used one of these by now, right? Okay. Have you ever used it on yourself? Yes? No? Yes? Excellent, right? This is the perfect tool to use when you're trying to identify your strengths and your opportunities for growth. So you all should have one, I hope, in front of you. So I just want you to take a few minutes right now to do the top 2 quadrants of the SWOT analysis. And I've given you a handout that has a list. Can I just borrow that? Thank you. Sorry, Nelson. You should have another handout in front of you that has a list of questions that you can ask yourself to kind of inspire you and get you thinking about what are my potential strengths and what are my weaknesses. And I was talking to a lovely lady just at the beginning of this event this evening, and I said, if you don't know what you're good at, ask someone who loves you. Right? Call a friend, call your mum, call your dad, call your sister, call your brother, call your uncle, whoever loves you, right? Call an ex-colleague, right? Ask them to tell you what you're really good at if you find it really hard to come up with the strengths that you have on your own. Because some of us are not very good at doing that, and I'm one of those people. So I would always say, what am I good at? Tell me what I'm good at. The other thing that you can do, if you're struggling with that area, is look at if you've had appraisals done, or they do your 6-month or your annual assessment. Look at what they've written about you in your assessment, because there's going to be some really great strengths that they've identified about you that you can put in that quadrant under strengths. Okay, so these are just ideas that I'm giving you to fill in that area. So take a couple of minutes now to write at least 3 to 5 things that you consider that are your strengths, and 3 to 5 things that you want to grow in. What's your growth area this year? So just take a few minutes to do that. Okay. All right, so what I want you to do now is turn to somebody next to you, turn to the person on your right, and just share with them what your strengths and weaknesses are. Just own it. All right, so how did you find that exercise? Was it kind of weird sharing with somebody else your strengths and weaknesses? Good. I'm glad. because getting in your discomfort zone is where you grow, right? So just being able to voice those things out loud gets you ready for the interview, right? So the more you voice it, the more you own it, and the more comfortable you get about saying those things, right? Okay, thank you for playing again. All right, so we're going to move on to behavioral questions. So one of the reasons why, I'm going to ask you guys again, what are the reasons why do behavioral questions get asked during an interview? What am I trying to find out about you as an interviewer?
They're
trying to find out your personality.
Trying to find out your personality, how you handle situations.
Compatibility with the company culture?
Compatibility, I can't even say the word, but thank you. Compatibility with the company culture. Easy for me to say. Any others? Yes?
Because past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior.
Exactly. That's the classic textbook answer. That's brilliant, right? Past behaviors tell me how you may perform on the task in the future. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so, and they usually sound like, and you're all familiar with these, and these are the questions that many people kind of dread because they don't know how to answer them in a manner that's succinct. They might ramble off or not even answer the question correctly at all, right? So you always want to answer the question that's being asked. If I'm asking you about how your day was, don't tell me how awful your evening was, right? Answer the question you're being asked. So they usually have words like, can you tell me about a time when? Can you give me an example? How did you handle certain situation? Can you describe something to me? Have you ever had a conflict with somebody else, right? Can you share a time? That's what they usually sound like. So this is an example of a question. Give me an example of a time when you had a setback or a disappointment concerning a project or activity you were responsible for. How do you even begin to answer that question? Right? Yes. Yeah. Your STAR method. Your STAR method. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. All right. So we're going to actually use the STAR method, and of course it was also on your worksheet. So this is a great way to answer those questions, right? You want as many stars in your back pocket as you can handle whenever you go into a situation, an interview situation, okay? The more of these stars that you have, the better. Why am I saying this to you?
This is important.
It's important, right? Yes.
And it works.
And it works, yeah. The other brilliant thing about this tool and why I love it so much is that the result that you write out when you're writing out your stars can go where? On your resume. Thank you. On your resume, right? It can really highlight all your accomplishments. So when you're starting to write your stars, start with your accomplishments. What did you accomplish at every position that you had in your career thus far, right? Start with the easy ones. Start with all the accomplishments that you've made. And then what you'll find is that some of your stars will create little baby stars, right? So you've got the main star, and then you'll go, well, actually, during this particular project, I had a conflict, right? And my handwriting is terrible. And that becomes another star. Or I had a delay, right? Delay, and that kind of becomes another star. Do you see where I'm going with this? Right, so one star can actually be repurposed multiple different ways, and you can also create other stars as a result of the main one, right? You with me?
Yes.
Awesome. Can everyone, I feel like the mic went out again. All right, it did?
No, you're good.
I'm good? All right, thank you. And I keep breathing into the mic. I hate sounding like Darth Vader. All right, so guess what you're going to get to do right now? Going to get to create a star, yes. All right, I'm so enthusiastic about this because it's important that you do this. So have a go, pick just a couple of projects that were really successful, things that you've done, accomplished, that were really successful, and write a star on them using this formula. And you should have a star template on the worksheet I gave you. That was kindly handed out actually by Miriam and Ron earlier. Thank you guys. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to share something with you. We tend to minimize our accomplishments. So something that we did that to us was very small, we tend to ignore. I don't want you to do that, right? I want you to think about every single thing you've done. Even if you think a monkey could have done it, you did it. And there was a reason why you did it. So I want to read something. I want to say to you, one person's mundane is another person's magnificent. All right? So just keep that in the back of your mind. So something that you think was really insignificant and small could be huge to another employer. So do not minimize your accomplishments. Okay? All right, how's everyone doing on their stars? I know it's like drinking from the fire hose a little bit, right? I'm like getting you to do one thing after the other after the other. That's why there's a 6-hour workshop coming up, so you have a little bit more time. While you're doing that, I'll tell you, can I share a quick story with of someone I work with? So I was teaching this class at a domestic violence shelter, and I had 5 women in my group that hadn't been working for a while, so they wanted to get interview confident again, right? And we were doing the SOAR exercise. And none of them could think of any accomplishments that they'd made, that they'd had, because some of them had been living under the thumb, so to speak. They weren't allowed out of the house, and I can't even imagine what that would be like. And one of the women was sharing a story of a time where she worked in a burrito restaurant. And she shared with me that, she goes, I was just making burritos. I didn't do anything special there. And I said, well, tell me more about what you did. And she shared with me that she was making the burritos using the recipe of the restaurant owner, and she didn't think it was very good. She said it was a nasty recipe. She said, my recipe was better. I said, okay, what did you do about that? She said, well, I asked the restaurant owner, could I change the recipe and we could just test it on the customers and see what would happen? And I said, and what happened? She said, so he let me. He was like totally open to the idea of letting me change the recipe. So she changed the recipe, and they started selling it to the customers. And the customer feedback was amazing. And like, God, what did you do to your burritos? They taste amazing. And they said, oh, we just changed the recipe up. Well, word got around, right? Because customer feedback gets around. And she ended up tripling their sales, right? But in her mind, she just changed the recipe. Right, do you see what I mean about someone's mundane is somebody else's magnificence? Right, so don't diminish your accomplishments, no matter how small you think they are. So who would like to play with me and come up to the front and share their star? Anybody brave enough? If I can stand up here in front of all of you and do this, one of you can stand up here and do a star with me. Come on. Yay, come up. What's your name? Samantha. Thank you, Samantha. Good job, Samantha. All right, you get the pen.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so what did you come up with for your situation?
So this was a situation for...
Can you just give Samantha one more round of applause?
Hi.
Thank you.
This is a situation, so I'm a project manager implementing payroll and HR software.
Okay.
And this was a situation, one of the hardest days I've ever had at Paycom. I was working with this massive account that I was way underqualified to be taking, but they didn't have anybody else, and they didn't think anybody else could take them. They were very special. We'd like come on site and say, okay, from 12 to 1, we're gonna go to lunch. And they wouldn't let me go to lunch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they were just very high needs, very assertive in what they wanted, and had some very unique ideas about what they felt like they had paid for.
Okay.
and routinely felt the need to express those in high volume. So I had a day where I had gone and met with them, and they basically said, we want these 3 things, or we're not starting with your company. And this was a $280,000 account, and I'd been with the company for maybe 6 months. And they're stopping.
Anyone feeling her pain right now? Right? Okay.
Yeah. So I get back to the office trying to figure out how am I going to put this together. And 3 of my colleagues were in there, and all of them had like the worst day ever. And then we connected with our Oklahoma team. Terrible day. Everybody's lives is terrible. And I'm trying to figure out how to save this $280,000 account. My boss is MIA. I'm like, all right, cool. This is fine. So I pretty much did what I knew how to do. I bought pizza.
What else do you do in a time of crisis, right? You
I'm
buy
a millennial.
pizza.
We get pizza. I don't know. So ended up ordering a ton of pizzas and blaring ABBA, because that's what my dad used to do when he was having a bad day.
All right.
Get pizza and listen to like Mamma Mia. Ended up figuring out some really kind of creative solutions to get these guys what they wanted. They wanted like a sales system from within a Paycom system. We don't do that. They wanted just crazy things, and so we ended up connecting with my Oklahoma team. Like, all right, what if we did this? Well, what if we did that? What if we did this? And through pizza, we were able to get this company what they wanted.
Okay.
They ended up starting with my company, and we have a T-shirt for it.
All right. So, what did you think of that star? It was great.
Terrifying.
I loved it, but I got lost.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to be honest. That's why that's why you're here, right? So I got a little lost about what were you trying to really get accomplished as during this whole scenario, right? So how can we make it more succinct and really give it a punch, right? So let's start this again.
Okay.
So the situation was what?
$280,000 account. Mad. Very mad.
All right. Okay.
The task was try and save them. Figure out how to do the impossible after a very, very bad day.
Okay. As an interviewer, I really don't care. Just saying. Just give me the facts. Yeah. So you wanted to save the account. That was your task. So what actions did you take?
I bought pizza for my team, so that way we could try and stay late and figure out creative solutions for what they wanted.
That's what I like. Lovely. Lovely. All right, and what was the result?
They stayed with us.
Yay! So you saved the account. Right, so your result needs to loop back to the situation, right? Common sense, right? But it does need to loop back to this. And then you can put that you saved a $280,000 account by doing creative solutions. Now you might want to get into a little bit of detail on which kind of solutions that you created. All right, but what does that tell me? Now when you're listening to it the second time, it goes a lot clearer, right? So what does that tell me about you? What am I able to determine about you or identify about your characteristics and your skill set as a result of this star?
That I can be really creative, and I've got a lot of grit, and I know how to rally the troops, so to speak.
Tenacious. Tenacious. Solve problems. Yeah,
I can't spell tenacious. I'm a dyslexic. Just saying. I am seriously dyslexic. This is my biggest fear when I do talks, is that you guys are going to give me a word I cannot spell. Just being completely transparent. What else does it tell me about Samantha?
Leadership.
Sorry?
Leadership.
Leadership.
Trust her to get the job done.
Gets the job done, right? So just from that one story, I'm able to determine a lot about Samantha, right? Weren't you? So now you can put all of these things as strengths on your SWOT analysis. All right? So that's what you can do. So the more you can create, the more stars you can create, you can pull out, okay, what does that say about me? What strengths did that play to that I have? And you can add them all to your strengths list, right? And then you can pick and choose which strengths. Thank you, Samantha, so much for being the brave. Give her a big round of applause. That was fun, and I've lost my clicker. All right, I am organized, really. So did you learn something from that exercise? I just want to get some feedback. Was that useful to you?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So this is another question that surprisingly trips people up. So when you've had, so this question is, tell me about your last or current job or ex-employer question, right? And this can trip people up in a couple of ways, right? If you've been laid off by that particular employer that they're asking you about, or you had a bad experience with your direct manager, or some negative experience at that employer, how do you think you're going to show up when they ask you about that? Sorry?
A complainer.
A complainer, possibly, right? What do you think your body language is going to do? You might do this. Well. And I'm telling you, people do that, right? So if you've got anyone on your resume that you've had a negative experience with, and I don't care what it was, you really, really, really need to fine-tune your body language around that question, okay? I work with clients on this all the time because they'll say to me, I've been interviewing everywhere, and I come out of my interview and I think I've done really well, and I don't get the job offer. And I go, well, tell me, what's going on? And then they'll start to, and I'll take them through their resume. Well, tell me about your different experiences. And I can tell immediately by their body language, I don't even have to say anything, from their facial expression, by the fact that they roll their eyes or they get really closed off, right? I can tell immediately that's why. That's why you're not getting the job. Because I can sense as an interviewers are sometimes trained on how to read body language, okay? They're experts in that, right? Because they want to know who they're hiring, right? So you really need to fine-tune your body language so that your body doesn't betray what's coming out of your mouth, because it will. It will make you look like a liar. It will make you look incongruent, all right? So let's talk about body language, shall we? Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do anything. Well, maybe, I don't know. So even when you're not communicating, you are communicating. We are walking, talking, communication devices. Would you agree? Yes. All right, okay. So when somebody's giving you the silent treatment, you're hearing that message loud and clear, right? If somebody's ignoring your texts, you're like, why are they not replying to my texts? Right? So you're hearing that message loud and clear just from the fact that they are ignoring you or they're demonstrating their body in a certain way, right? It's impossible for us not to communicate. And I just want to make sure. All right, so what do you see in the top picture? What kind of body language are they displaying? Fortunately, none of you are doing that in this room right now, so I'm like, thank God. All right. So they're displaying, language that you really don't want them to be to have in an interview, correct? Right? And what percentage of your body language is part of your communication? What makes up the communication pie? What percentage of that is it? What percentage is your body language? Anybody know?
5.
How much?
95.
Oh. What percentage is your words? Okay, and what percentage is your tone and your inflection? All right. So 55% of your communication is non-verbal, which is basically your body language, right? 7% are just the words that you speak, and the rest, the 38%, is the tone and inflection, right? So even when you're on a phone interview, you still have to watch your body language because it's going to affect how you speak. Right, they always train customer service agents to smile while they're on the phone because your customers can hear it. Same thing goes for an interview, right? You need to smile while you're talking on an interview. I would even recommend that if you're on a phone interview, you stand up and do the interview standing up, right? So many benefits to doing the interview standing up. And the one thing that they don't talk about in body language is the energy that you give off, right? We all have a frequency. We all have an energy that we give off, and our emotions affect our frequency that we give off. And this is not a bunch of woo-woo. This is actually scientifically proven. So every emotion that you feel has its own frequency, and guess what? We pick up on all that frequency. So you know the expression, you could cut the atmosphere with a knife? You're talking about the energy, right? So you get to choose what energy that you show up with. Do you want to be like Clark Kent kind of character and just kind of be all timid and mumbly and fumbly? Or do you want to be really powerful, right? Like these guys, right? Power posing and walk in with that inner confidence. And again, this works whether you're face-to-face, on the phone, video, what have you. Whatever kind of interview that's going to get thrown at you, they will be able to sense your body language and your frequency, the energy that you're giving off. What's my energy like tonight? High? Excellent, thank God. All right. All right, so who's heard of power posing? I did lie. I forgot. Okay, is it Becky? Beth, would you like to demonstrate to everybody what a power pose is, please?
No, but I've heard of it.
You've heard of it? Okay, who would like to demonstrate?
I had to do it before one of my children.
Oh, you're going to do it now, honey. All right, everybody get up. Assume a power pose. All right, I'm sorry that I'm putting you through so much work this evening. And I do appreciate you all playing along with me. Now, doing this for 2 minutes is going to reduce your cortisol, your stress hormone, and raise your testosterone, your confidence hormone, okay? Just by 2 minutes. I was doing this for 2 minutes in the bathroom before I came out to speak. I say this, I'm telling the truth. I was literally doing this. And the other thing, because you know, when you go into an interview situation, it's a high stress situation for some of us, right? So you want to go in with the best, you want to go in with a strategy, and you want to go in with the best chance that you get of giving the best version of yourself, right? So doing this for 2 minutes, and some people like to power pose like this. I did it to a bunch of high schoolers, and a couple of them did this. Like that. I can't even do it right, which I thought was adorable, right? So you pick whatever power pose works for you, and you just do that for 2 minutes. And the other thing that you might want to have going through your head is an affirmation, right? Whatever affirmation works for you. One of mine is, I have value, I am valuable. So I'll just have that on repeat. The other thing that I love to do is have a theme song playing in my head. Do you have a theme song? What makes you like really get up and really feel your own vibe, right? My theme song, whenever I'm doing a speaking engagement, that I tend to play over and over again, and I'm gonna hash this up, but it's what a feeling, right? Feels believing. I love that freaking song whenever I'm doing a speak, because it really gets me motivated. It gets me in the right vibration so that I can come into the room and have you all in my heart space and present to you. All right, so you can all sit down now. Thank you. All right. So when you're in an interview situation, and power posing works. I know for some of you feel kind of silly, like, oh, I'm standing here. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, Mia.
I just wanted to add that when you're in the bathroom, when you're doing it in front of a mirror.
You can do it in front. Well, here I wouldn't do it in public. I'm actually in a cubicle doing it like this. But at home, if I don't have time to do it before I'm speaking or before an interview or a stressful situation, then I will definitely do it in front of the mirror. That's very powerful. Thank you for saying that, Neo. All right, so body language in an interview setting. So if you're in a face-to-face setting, you want to maintain an assertive posture. What do I mean by that? Basically, you want to be open. Why do you want to be kind of open?
Receptive.
Yeah, right. You're approachable, right? They can approach you. You're not guarding yourself or shielding yourself in any way, right? It just makes you more approachable. You want to consider power posing. I strongly recommend that. I'm good on time. Okay, so you also want to watch your hands. Now, what I mean by that is, well, somebody who knows about watching your hands in an interview setting. Does somebody else want to comment on that? Nobody, okay. Yes?
So I grew up in South America and talk about my hands. So I start talking with my hands. I even do it on the phone. And I realized that people will, if I'm watching somebody else talk with their hands, it's distracting. Not when I'm doing it, but make sure to keep my hands under the table. But once in a while, they come out. So that's what I talk with my hands.
Thank you very much. There's nothing wrong with using your hands to express yourself, right? You just don't want them flailing around and knocking glasses of water over in an interview saying, right? Because that's just embarrassing and really distracting. And the other thing you don't want to do, and I used to have a habit of, when I was in meetings, I would start picking my nail beds, right? Just like pushing the nail bed back. Really annoying, right? And somebody gave me that feedback. They said, Carmen, stop doing that. It's really distracting. And I was really grateful for that feedback. So be aware of the little mannerisms that you have, the things that you might be doing with your hands that you're not necessarily aware of. And that could be one of them for you. Or maybe just clicking your knuckles or whatever it is for you. Just be aware of what you're doing with your hands that could be distracting and taking away from the message that you want to convey to the person interviewing you. Pay attention to your face. This is especially important, again, when we go back to the behavioral questions and it might be a negative experience that you're recalling, right? You really want to practice in the mirror how to answer those questions about that employer or that boss or that manager or that colleague that you didn't particularly like very much, right? So you really want to watch your facial expressions. There's 7 universal facial expressions that regardless of where you come from in the world, we all recognize them. A couple of them are anger, surprise, fear, laughter, smiling, right? These are universal. So make sure that you're aware of your facial expressions. Maintain appropriate eye contact. I cannot stand it, just a personal peeve of mine, when I'm interviewing someone or if I'm just in a conversation with someone and they're not looking at me when they're talking to me. They're kind of answering my question and they're kind of doing this whole thing, like looking everywhere but at me, right? What does that make me? What's the impression I get of you when you do that?
It seems that you're not paying attention.
Sorry?
It seems that you're not paying attention to what you're saying.
Right? They're not paying attention to what you're saying.
Uninteresting.
Right? All those things, right? And so if you're the person who's not able to give eye contact and you're speaking, it also makes me feel like you're a little bit dodgy. Right? I don't build trust with you, right? So, and also conversely, you don't want to be like this, super intense, talking to the person, not blinking and all that kind of stuff, and really uncomfortable, right? So the other thing that you want to do as well is mirror their body language. Why do you want to mirror their body language?
Meeting them where they're at.
So, can you speak up?
It's a meeting them where they're at.
Meeting them where they're at. What else does it do or convey to me when you're mirroring my body language? Sorry? You're watching the person, right? But it also builds trust. Have you ever noticed that if you go out with a group of friends, by the end of the night, everybody's got the same position? Right? They're all mirroring each other. And it's because they're relaxed. They've built trust with that group of people, right? So I'm not saying if they move, you move and do the same thing, right? I'm not saying that at all, right? It's got to be natural. It's got to be organic, right? And the experiment that I like to do is I like to see if when I'm being interviewed, because I get interviewed for contracts and stuff like that. When I'm being interviewed, I like to see if they're mirroring my body language, right? Because if they're mirroring my body language, that means they trust me, right? So, and they feel comfortable around me. So just be aware of that. Okay. And the last one I'm going to share with you is stop fidgeting. Do not click your pen incessantly. If you do that, don't put a pen in your hand, put it on the table, all right? So just you might flick your hair or do something weird with your hair, right? Just be aware of your mannerisms, right? What is your body doing without you even realizing it? One of the best coaching tools that I can share with you is role play an interview with somebody, right? And record it, video it. And see what you're doing. Are you doing this with your knee? Right? Because you're nervous, right? You could be doing all kinds of different things, right? So just be aware. Record it, play it back, and listen to it 4 ways. You want to play it without the sound, and just look at the image on the screen. You want to listen to it with the sound and listen to just your voice, right? Then you want to basically kind of take away, what would I do differently next time? How would I change my voice, tone of voice? How would I change my body language? And then the fourth way to listen to it is just listen to it collectively, right? How is the other person responding to you, right? So with the sound and with the visual, okay? Really excellent coaching tool for yourself. So to remind everybody, shameless plug, we are doing a workshop on the 2nd of February where we go into this in a bit more detail. It's at the University of Phoenix. It's a 6-hour workshop, and we would love, if you're thinking of seriously going into a different career this year, or you want to be interview confident, I highly recommend that you come to this workshop and take charge of your career. And to end on this, I love this message, and I want you to take it to heart. Let your light shine. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our dark, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking, so that other people don't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And it's as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And I always end with this. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always. Thank you. You're welcome.